Hi, this is Steve Schmidt, team leader and web advisor here at Effect. And you're probably wondering, well, I'm not really sure how to set goals for the site. I don't know. Maybe I just want, more business. Maybe that's my goal or something. But and that's really common. But I'm hoping after you're done with this video, you're going to either have your SMART goal set or be confident that you can set one after you collaborate with others or think about it for a while. So you've probably heard of the SMART acronym before. It's not something I made up, but I thought it was pretty cool and makes a lot of sense. And it's actually helped me a lot over the years, and other clients of ours actually get somewhere. So let's talk about why to do this first. With clearly defined goals, people accomplish more of what they want to and waste less. And you already know that. It's not anything new. If you set your target, you're more likely to hit it versus not having one, and you could end up, not really getting much done, or a year can go by and you're not a whole lot closer. So it's funny because the hardest part about doing all this stuff, seems like it's setting the goals, when in fact I think that might be the easiest thing to do. So let's go through how to set your SMART goal. So first, what is a SMART goal? It's a goal that's specific, measurable, something that is attainable, it's relevant to you right now, and it's time bound, which basically means we've set a time parameter to it. Because if we say, well, I want to, I'm just making this up, get $50,000 a month in, people buying stuff off the site. Well, that's time bound because we've just tied the $50,000 to a monthly time frame. So every month we want to hit that, and by the way, that's hitting the specific. We might even make it more specific by saying $50,000 of people buying a certain type of area rug or something like that. Or maybe we could change this. It doesn't have to be about e-commerce, because most of you probably aren't e-commerce. It could be, I want to get, so many new contacts through my website from people that don't already know us, who are searching for keywords that we want to be ranked for. So let's say you want 5 new contacts each month that come from the internet of a certain type of audience, because you might have, most people have multiple audiences. So that's how you can make that specific. That certainly is measurable, because we know whether or not we got 5 new contacts from that audience a month, or if we hit the $50,000 in sales a month. Is it attainable? That's where your kind of best, judgment comes in. Is that something that makes sense? Is it realistic? If you had a way to get that many people, are there that many people buying that stuff or looking for that stuff each month? Relevant. This is probably the easiest thing to check off the list here is, because if you've stated a goal, it's probably something that's relevant that you want, but it's just something to challenge your goal with. Make sure that it is highly relevant, and we've already covered time bound. So let's move on now. So here are some more examples of SMART goals that meet all of those requirements. Maybe we want to double the number of people that turn into web leads each month by a 6-month mark. Or maybe we want 300 people to subscribe to our blog within 12 months, because we feel like that's going to result in whatever you think it's going to result in. Maybe it's increase the number of visitors every month by 50% within 18 months from now, so you have time to build up to that. Or it could be very specific to, some kind of process you have. Like, we want to have, 80% of all the warranty claims processed through the new online warranty claim system by this time next year, rather than people calling in or mailing something. So we've got the specific down. we've got the measurable. We can certainly measure if it's 80%. We can certainly measure if we've hit 300. If we know how many visitors we have now, we can certainly calculate how much 50% more is. Attainable, again, just has to do with your own, best, judgment on what you know and what your experience says is possible. Relevant, the easy one. How relevant is this to you? Is this really your main priority? And there's nothing wrong with setting multiple SMART goals. You might have a first priority SMART goal and a second and a third. And then there's time bound, and certainly these are all time bound within 6 months, but by 12 months, every month, whatever your time frame is that is doable and makes sense. If you want to make the time frame shorter, it may just mean you have to work harder. But again, this sets our target in a very specific and well-defined way, because the next step after setting that target, the SMART goal, is to lay out your plan to hit it. And if you get to that point where you're planning it out and you're like, you know what, man, maybe this isn't so realistic. Maybe we need, 18 months to get there rather than 12. Maybe we should set the goal to be 25% more visitors within a few months rather than 50. Or you will, by setting the goal, laying out your plan, you're going to see if it's going to feel right. And the other great thing about setting SMART goals, besides clarifying everything and allowing you to lay out a plan of action that, makes sense, is that when you have a goal like this that's clear, and then you've developed your plan to hit it, it can make you excited about it rather than hoping, well, okay, I set this goal. I don't really know, exactly how I'm going to get it. I hope it happens. We'll see what happens, So it can just be so much more motivating because you have that clarity on what you're going to hit and how you're going to go about it. So this is a spot of the video where I really want to encourage you to pause the video and write down some draft SMART goals of yours, or even just focus on the number one thing that you want the website to contribute to. What should that be? Is it number of leads or contacts, number of sales, number of subscriptions, number of or percentage of more people finding certain information on your site, filling out a certain form, even if it's not like a big call to action. Maybe it's a little call to action of downloading, a toolkit or something like that. So just use the space provided or use a paper or whatever you want and write down some SMART goals. And then after that, we're going to ask you a few questions to challenge those and refine those further. Are you still here? Did you actually pause the video and actually get out a piece of paper or pen? Really, you should pause it now and do that. Okay, so I'm trusting that you actually put together some kind of SMART goals at this point. I'm counting on you for that. The next area is going to be a little bit helpful. If you didn't, actually do that, it's going to be very helpful if you did do that. And hey, what's the point of even going through this video if we're not actually going to take the steps? And I know what some of you are thinking, actually probably most of you, because I felt this way too when I first came into contact with setting goals. I was like, man, it's too lofty, it's too big, how do I do it, and so forth. I hope this has helped you so far get a little motivated more to do that, because it's so specific and you have basically this little 5-point checklist to make a goal. But if you work through that initial, I don't know, and if you just force yourself to do it, you'll come to the other side of it, and then you'll be like, well, that really wasn't difficult, and wow, I really did get clarity, and you are going to be motivated to get your goal. If you're excited at all about what work you do, and you're able to set a goal that is meaningful, it will just naturally make you motivated and excited about it, and then you're going to like setting those kinds of goals. So, okay, let's move on. This is where we ask, is your goal SMART enough? And so I've got a question for each of the points here. How can you make it more specific? Think about when you communicate this goal to your team. What kinds of questions will they have about it? Will they say, well, do you mean this or that? Well, does it mean that we're going to, go all the way with that, or is it just this or whatever? What questions are they going to have, and use that to make your goal more specific? Because hopefully what you'll end up with is like a one-sentence goal that's crystal clear, what the heck you want to accomplish by when, and eliminates a bunch of questions like that with people. Because if people get like, well, I guess I don't really know if it means that or this, you're either going to have a bunch of people asking you more questions and wasting your time, and or people are going to be demotivated because they're like, well, I'm not really sure, it's not too clear, or I'm not sure what the impact is, or whatever. So be very specific. How can you make it more specific? Let's talk about the point of being measurable. In your goal, do you have a clear thing that you can measure? Do you have a clear and simple way to measure that? Or is the goal saying that you're trying to get so much of something that you don't really have a method to measure it by? I think what can often happen at this point is we'll set a SMART goal for something that we don't, well, I should say something that we can influence but really don't have a lot of control over. Let's use search engine optimization, for example. You can't control where your rankings show up in organic search. You can influence it, and you can influence it kind of a little bit, and sometimes you can kind of do more, but it all depends on your competition, depends how Google's acting, it depends on your location, depends on a lot of stuff. So really there's a lot more that you can't control about that than what you can control. So if you have a type of goal where you're trying to get so much of something, but you really only have a little bit of influence rather than a lot of control, what I would suggest is changing your goal to measure whatever leads up to what you want. So in the case of search engine optimization, one of the things that leads up to ranking, since we can't control ranking, but one of the things that leads up to it that we can control is how much good content we write. So the SMART goal in that case might change from, well, I want to be number one on Google for blue widgets to we're going to produce 3 excellent pieces of content each month that are graphical, that our audience would find useful, and you can definitely measure whether you've done 3, and you have control over whether you've done 3. What happens is if you set a SMART goal on something like ranking, or maybe how many deals you're going to land, that probably you have a little bit more influence over than ranking. But if you set your SMART goal on something that you only have a little bit of influence on and not a lot of control, what happens when you don't hit that? And you've worked really hard, or your team's worked really hard, you're going to feel demotivated. And then you're going to see more clearly that there's this disconnect inside of your SMART goal between what you're doing and what you can get out of it. And you might say, well, gosh, I'm going to work even harder, and then what if it doesn't happen again? Or what if it does happen, but then the next month it doesn't? So you need to set that measurable aspect to something that you have a good amount of control over, rather than just some influence. So that way you're going to stay motivated, and hey, if you put out 3 pieces of content or whatever, if that's your goal and it's good stuff, you hit your goal. And if that didn't result in the ranking that you want over time, then you'll have to adjust your SMART goal. But at least you are hitting your goal, you are working hard, you are doing what you said you're going to do, and you're going to feel good about that. and you already know you can't control everything in the world, so you did the best you could. But don't set a SMART goal and try to measure something that you really can't control. So let's move on to the next one, attainable. Now take a look at what you've got in your SMART goal and think about, is this attainable? Is this realistic? And there's different ways to look at this. Some people may say, no, that's way too tough. And we've all heard stories about, somebody sets a tough goal and then they work really hard and then they get it. Or, maybe they get lucky and they get it. But just think about it again. Maybe talk to somebody you trust who's really level-headed outside of yourself and get some feedback on that. This attainable aspect is kind of pending, really. Even if you talk to somebody and everybody's like, yeah, that's great. It's kind of pending on the plan that you develop to hit this SMART goal. Because sometimes when you make your detailed plan for all the stuff everybody's going to do to get the goal, you'll find out in there, there's really not enough time in the day to do that, or John doesn't have enough time in his schedule to do that or something. And then you can revisit your SMART goal if your plan says that's, not realistic right now. So think about that as a pending thing, even if your team is, likes that. For real or relevant rather, is this the goal that you want to focus on right now? Is it really that? Or is there a higher priority? And if you have multiple SMART goals, do you have the resources to focus on those multiple things right now? Just be realistic with yourself. And sometimes I know I'll try to do too much at once. So I'll look at the list and I'm like, you know what? These are the ones that are most relevant. So that's what I'm going to focus on. So it's kind of a question of focus. When it comes to time bound, really the question is just who would know, how much time this would take to do. If you have a team involved to go after this goal, I would encourage you to discuss with the team members what a good time frame would be and get commitment on that. It's easy to set a time and then, if you dictate the goal and then others think, well, gosh, that's just not enough time for that, even if they do have a positive attitude, it may be a recipe for not hitting the goal from the start and then demotivating people. So if you need to check with somebody to make that time-bound piece of the goal solid, I would definitely do that. So at this point, you should have some goals written down. Take some time to challenge them further with the last thing we were talking about, and you should be on your way. But oftentimes this can be difficult, especially when you're so into something. I know I find it very helpful to talk with an advisor or somebody I can trust who's level-headed outside of our company to bounce those ideas off on SMART goals and get feedback and refine those, and that's a very healthy thing to do. So if you need help and you would like me to help you with this, I can just basically listen, I can ask you questions and help you go through this. So the offer is on the table. If you're having a tough time setting up your SMART goals, you can schedule a free collaborative hour with me, and I'd be happy to help you through those and help you refine them, and maybe we might come up with a goal that you might not have thought of before, or maybe what you come in with is what you leave with too, and at least you can get some feedback on that. So there's basically three things we'll do is clarify those goals. We can identify possible steps for your plan to reach that goal or goals, and then size up options for taking those steps, which can involve, of course, your own team members. So for me, what matters is achieving what you set out to do, not so much who actually does the work. But if you're interested in that, just fill out this little form here and I'll schedule a time with you. If you're not ready for that, but you do want to subscribe to other tools and practical how-tos like this, just subscribe down here. We are going to have more coming up. So thank you very much, and have a good rest of your day.